How to change out a boiler pump. This pump hums instead of sounding like it's running. It also gets extremely hot. Shut off the isolation valves. This time it's dripping just a little. Pull them down on both sides. Turn off the power to the pump. Loosen up the bolts. Remove the bottom plastic piece. We'll be able to remove the electrical wires. There's 2 Phillips screws. We'll remove the wires and pull out the wire. Straighten up the wire so we can pull it out. Remove all the bolts and pull out the pump. It's going to leak a little bit. We'll prep the new pump, place in the check valve, put it in the exact same spot. We'll grab some silicone grease, that way it won't break down the rubber seal. We'll put the lube inside as well, and then give it a push, nice and straight. Here's a close-up of those little connectors. When you push them, everything opens up. The black wire goes on the line, white on the neutral, and then the green on the ground. Scrape off the old gaskets. Make sure you don't scrape and gouge the brass. Scrape it nice and clean. Clean everything with Scotch-Brite. We'll do both sides. Make sure everything's clean. Put the seals in place. Squeeze in the pump. Place all the nuts and bolts in. It's important that you snug everything up even, not so tight. Make sure the nuts are seated. Then make sure the gaps are even. To make them even, you may have to loosen it up a little bit on one side or the other. Place the wire back into the new pump. L is the black wire, neutral is the white, green is the ground. Slide the clamp back up into place, screw it in, tighten up the connector. We'll put the plastic plate back in. You may have to compress the wires a bit. Place the pump on low to start with. Wipe everything down. We'll need to bleed out all the air. We'll open up the system with a garden hose. It'll go into a bucket, and then out of the bucket, it'll go into a pump, and then the pump is going to pump it back into the system. Any of the air will end up in this bucket. If it needs to add fluid, it'll also add fluid at the same time. I'll lower the valve. This will force it to go down and then back up. We have both valves open, and it's flowing into the bucket. The air you see is the air that we're getting out of the system. The pump's moving it through the system. This is propylene glycol instead of water, so the system will last longer. You can really see quite a bit of foam in there. That's a lot of air. I may have to add a little bit of propylene glycol if it gets low. I try to keep the bucket at about 3/4 full. I'll keep an eye on the pressure. We want to make sure that it's not above 30 psi or it'll blow out the pressure release valve. On the boiler, there's a pressure relief valve right here set at 30 psi. This is the expansion tank, so as the fluid heats up, it'll expand in this tank. Without the expansion tank, it'll go beyond 30 psi and just blow out the relief valve. Then you'll lose fluid, and then you won't be able to get the pressure that's needed. Once we have all the air out, it'll take a few days to get all the air out. A valve like this will purge out some of the air, and then you'll need to replace it with liquid. When the pressure gauge goes down, it's because we lost fluid because of the air. To get the pressure where it needs to be, we'll have to add in some more fluid. In our case, the propylene glycol. Looks like we just hit another air pocket. You can see all that white frothy air. To hear how the pump is working, a stethoscope works real nice. You just put it up against the pump and you can hear it whirl or hum or whatever sounds it's going to make. These pumps are so quiet it almost takes a stethoscope to hear it. It's been running for about 20 minutes. You can see there's quite a bit of air still in there. Turn everything off. We've got decent pressure. We'll go ahead and turn on the boiler. This will turn the boiler and the pumps on. I can see the pump is running and everything's nice and quiet in the boiler. If there was air, it'd be knocking. If the pump is bad, it'll overshoot, so we don't want it to overshoot. I'm hearing some of the air kicking out. It'll probably do this for a couple days. This stands for domestic hot water. I'm feeling the pipes get warm. This is good. As the air comes out, we're gonna have to replace it with fluid, but we want all the air out. I'll put the phone right onto the pump and see if we can hear it. Amazingly quiet. We're at 20% burn rate, so everything's just kind of cruising along. If the boiler overshoots, we can always change the speed on the pump. The switch is on the bottom, we're on low now, which is working. Warm water, what a blessing.